What do rising US bond yields mean for the ASEAN economies that you see?
I think it really depends on what's driving the rise in U.S. yields, and I think if it's it can rise for a good reason or it can rise for a bad reason. If it's rising for a good reason, say we're getting more optimistic about the U.S. Economy, the U.S. recovery, which we are as a house. We are forecasting U.S. growth this year at 6.5%, next year at 5%. Then I think that's good for the global economy, and especially so for this part of the world, which we export a lot of our goods to the U.S. And therefore, rising tide in the U.S. will lift exports over here as well, and that should mean relatively better prospects for especially the external oriented economies like Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam. However, the recent rise in yield in the U.S. have also been attributed to somewhat of a bad rise. Basically we saw real rates going up in the U.S. Some have attributed this to some liquidity issues, similar to what we saw in last year. So it's kind of like a market abnormality. And such a big rise is happening even when the Fed is not, it has actually committed to not taper. So what happens when the U.S. Fed eventually has to taper? Will these liquidity issues become much worse? And if those kind of drivers are reasons are what is driving the rise in U.S. yields, then we're going to see spillovers, contagion to the domestic markets. We saw, for example, the Indonesian local markets debt sold off quite a bit. We also saw currency weakness, although I have to say that the currencies have held up relatively okay because, again, the strength from the export sector.